What's up, guys? Welcome to the James Boudreau podcast, where I sit down with people from all walks of life to talk about their stories, experiences, and ideas. This podcast is brought to you by Watson Motors, the official studio sponsor. If you're in need of a Jeep, Ram, or Dodge, or whatever, these guys have you covered with great deals and even better service. So hit them up in Manistee, Benzie, or Ludington, or check them out online at watsonmotors.com. Listen, support the people that support the show. Now let's get into it. This is episode number 136 or 137. Mm-hmm. I did one yesterday. I don't know when I'm going to post that one, though. I got some work to do on that one. The one I did yesterday is a friend of mine. I've known her for maybe 7 to 10 years. Kind of industry stuff, like from the liquor store, and when I was working in the selling side of the beer and wine industry. I knew, so I'll just get into it real quick. She's from Lithuania, right? And I knew she was from another country, and she was not born in the United States. And I'd been following her more on social media because she just started showing up on the feeds again all of a sudden. Super type A, big personality. I mean, she was a hell of a salesman. She worked in the industry for a long time at like Storm Cloud distributorship. She got into the liquor side of things. And when I had the liquor store, she would come in and sell stuff. But she was just a great person. And anyhow, she was on my... This episode is brought to you by Brandon Ball, broker owner of Dwelling Realty, Keller Williams, Northern Michigan. Are you looking to sell your home? Then look no further. When you list your home with Brandon Ball, you'll get a trusted advisor who will guide you through the entire selling process. With extensive knowledge of the local market, he'll help price your home competitively to attract the right buyers. And with proven marketed strategies, your home will be seen by the most qualified of buyers. With 17 years in the business, you'll have someone experienced who's on your side. Contact Brandon today to get started selling your home. 231-690-4981. That's 231-690-4981. Or Brandon at dwellingrealty.com. I feed, and I'm like, what is she doing? It looked like she bought a farm and like she was done working in the industry. So I was like, I'm going to have her on just to catch up and have a conversation on camera. And then she had posted a couple times that she was writing a book, like a memoir. And I'm like, really? Like, what do you got to write about? Because, so we're friends, but not like, we don't break bread together. So I didn't really know a whole lot.
Wasn't she?
Well, dude. So I have her on, and we spend the first 40 minutes just talking industry stuff. We're rehashing old memories just about being in the liquor business and stuff. And I said, okay, so let's get into your book. What's the book about? Because she kept saying she had a crazy childhood, and I thought there might be some like darker stuff, maybe like abuse or something like that. Was I wrong? She went in to talk about how born in Lithuania. And right about the time of the Berlin Wall coming down, right? And I'm not really like dialed into like Eastern Europe and politics and geography and all that. But her parents were, like protesters. They were really into like civil rights movement and stuff like that. And she was talking about how there's like a road or a long highway that kind of separates four countries, Lithuania being one of them. And they did this thing called the March of Song. I could be getting that wrong, but it basically is a peaceful protest. Thousands of people and their parents were heavily involved in it. And at this time, she's like 6, maybe. Her and her brother. I think her brother maybe a year older, a year younger. But it's like, all right, we're marching in this thing. So it starts off like that. Like we're just talking, oh, that's cool, But, the civil unrest in that country, much like the shit that's going on today, was like, all right, now it's getting dangerous, right? So one day she goes to school, she comes home, and her dad's gone. Her dad got a work visa for the United States, left to go make money to start bringing people over. This is like old school history shit, like how people just leave their kids. Well, he left. He doesn't come back till she's 11.
Oh, wow.
And when he comes back, it's one of these things where she comes home from school. Because I have a younger daughter, and she's 9. So she's like, picture your daughter being this age while she's telling me this story. And she's like, he just is home. So then they spend another year together, like nothing happened. He never talks about anything. And so what he's doing is he's working on getting mom a visa. So then mom and dad leave, and the kids stay back in Lithuania because they don't have enough money to take them over. They've got to go through the process of getting them visas to come over. Well, they don't speak English, and the dad speaks better Spanish than he does English. He's working at like a what would it be, like a salvage yard in Chicago. Mom is a waitress. They get linked up with these attorneys in Chicago to try to get visas for their kids. Apparently the attorneys were like not nice people. At some point they say, yep, visas are ready. So dad and mom go back to get the kids. They go to the embassy and say, hey, I'm here to pick up visas for our kids. Like, I'm not doing a great job telling the story, but basically they're like, there's no visas here. So now they want to come back to the United States. So then what do? They go to Mexico. So hear me out. This is like the shit you hear about today on the news. They go to Mexico because it's the easiest way to come across the border. Very difficult, but the easiest way in their eyes to come to the United States. To smuggle their kids across the border is what they're doing. Dude, they get linked up with the cartel, right? And she goes, I'm 11, 12 years old at this point. I have no idea what's going on. I'm just a kid. With my parents, we're just going to do this thing. And mom and dad are like, all right, we got to do this to get across. And it's walking over like desert lands, going over water, driving in some cases. But at one point, the cartel says to them, we're going to need you to carry this stuff for us to get over. Like, now they're smuggling coke, and they don't even know it. Like, the kids have it, and they're like, well, nobody's going to stop these white kids. Right? Just absolutely nuts, dude. And then she goes the rest of her life, getting up until freshman in college, playing this cloak and dagger game with her parents and everybody around them because she's not an American citizen. They're here illegally for a decade or more. And then she finally gets a green card when she's a freshman in college and then starts telling people. Yeah. So she's got a book to write.
That'd be a story to read.
Yeah.
My cousin's a ghostwriter, and she writes people's memoirs for them, stuff like that, and that's one that she'd probably really enjoy doing.
Yeah, she's got a ghostwriter because she's like, yeah, I can tell you right now, I wouldn't be able to write this myself and have it be legit.
It's a whole thing, you having the experiences, but being able to put them down on paper, it takes a skill. That's what my cousin does, and she's written all sorts of biographies and autobiographies and stuff. And of course, her name is nowhere except like in the fine print in the back.
Yeah.
She enjoys it. Gets to travel all over too. It's a good job to have.
Yeah, I asked her how much does something like that cost because she's trying to do it the traditional way, get an agent, have them shop it to the publishing houses and stuff like that. And she said one of the publishing houses told her it would be like 60 to 70 grand to have somebody write it for her. So she actually found a ghostwriter on Fiverr. And she said by the time it's finished, it'll be a little over $20K. But still, that's a ton of money.
Yeah.
I
guess if it gets traction, though, and it turns into something that's worth it. But damn, I had no idea how much it actually costs. I just know that my cousin seems to live an alright life.
Well,
it's my dad's cousin, actually.
I mean, I suppose you're putting all of the work into, you're either listening or taking notes from the person, but you're doing all the work, and if it's taken her 18 months already to get this far, I mean, that's worth something. Time is worth something.
Yeah. Well, I've got 4 separate KISS autobiographies from each of the 4 members, and I know for a fact, because I've met 1 or 2 of them, they're not that smart, so somebody definitely wrote that for them. So it's a very important job to have. So.
You're a KISS fan.
Oh, God.
Dude.
That's a whole other thing.
Yeah, we could get into it, because I'm a KISS fan. I was, it was like 1990, I graduated in 97. It was the early 90s. I was 92. I don't think I was in high school. I definitely wasn't in high school yet. I was probably in 7th or 8th grade. And for whatever reason, we were just into KISS. And this was during the Revenge Tour.
You don't need a reason. It's KISS.
No makeup Revenge Tour, right? And my buddy's dad got tickets. And he was like, so he's asking friends to go, and I'm like, I definitely want to go. I gotta ask my dad. And my dad was like, you are not going to a Kiss concert. I saw Kiss in 1970, whatever. You're not going to a concert like that. I'm like, please, so and so's dad's got tickets. He's going, and it was in Grand Rapids. And he finally said, yeah, you could go. So we go. This was my first concert experience.
It's a good first concert.
Was a Kiss concert. Take It Off. And the strippers came up on stage, dude. I mean, it's a kid show. They weren't naked, but they probably would have been. They were in my mind. I was like, what is happening here? This is fantastic.
I had a live VHS from that tour back whenever it came out. And I remember that one, actually. I was early high school at the time, I think, when I got the tape. And I was like, oh, my God. That's amazing.
So what brought you to Manistee, dude? Like, you said earlier when we were talking off camera, you said you used to come up here for vacations. I mean...
Oh, yeah, I've been... Oh, wait, are we on?
Yeah.
I've been coming up here since I was a kid, camping at the state park, and my parents... camping was a big part of our life, so we would go to cool places like, Orchard Beach, and we'd go to shitty places like, Curtis, Upper Peninsula, Michigan, that's like this big and has a little swimming hole pond to swim in, and just... see the state, right? So we were always like Michigan people. And Manistee was a place we always sort of came back to a lot. And it kind of continued into our adulthood. Got married and eventually moved to Nashville. And then summer break, we would always seem to just come up here visiting and walk around the neighborhoods and just do the things that people do when they visit Manistee. And a couple of years ago, it's my 10th year, going into my 10th year teaching in Nashville, and we were thinking about moving back up here somewhere, just to be closer to family. We had our first daughter. We had adopted her in 2017, and we just realized we were family people, and we got a great community in Nashville. We still talk to them every day, actually, but it's not the same as having cousins and grandparents and, family around, and we really wanted to be close. So we were at my parents' cabin in Wellston, and I was reading the newspaper, like an actual physical newspaper, and there was a job posting in the back in the classified section of the newspaper, which you just never see anymore. It's always online. And
yeah.
It was an opening at the high school in town. And I was like, all right, I'll try it. And I sent off my cover letter and all that stuff to the district. And I think Nancy in the central office wrote me back almost immediately. And we went back and forth, which at the time I didn't know Nancy. But if you got to know Nancy, she's a nice, chatty lady. And it was definitely Nancy. And we chatted for a bit. And about a month later, I was employed here. So we moved up, and we lived in Ludington for a month as we kind of got our feet under us, and then found our house, which the house is an interesting story. I remember clearly as a child going through walks through the neighborhood and passing that house that I live in now, and just knowing it, being familiar with it. And I ended up buying it from the lady who still owned it back when I was a kid, walking through the neighborhood. So she owned it since the 70s. And it's just kind of a weird, small world, full circle moment, I guess. But moved here, and 3 other kids came within the first year of living here. And it's been a pretty nutty couple of years, honestly.
Can I ask you about the adoption of your 2 older children?
Our daughters are adopted, yeah. Our 2 older daughters.
And what was the desire to do that?
My wife was always, she took a lot of mission trips as a kid with church and saw the world and stuff. And it was always kind of a desire of hers, which honestly I didn't share. It wasn't something that was in my wheelhouse. I wasn't familiar with it. I'm just not opposed to it, just not something I ever thought about. And we were not able to have kids, biological kids. And we got tested and did all the procedures and stuff, and just nothing came from it. And it just became something I was going to have to reevaluate my position on. And, because she was always, even if we were able to have biological kids, she still wanted to go that route at some point. And now it was kind of like, if we're going to have kids, we're going to have to go that route. So we started the process and got matched really quickly, actually. I mean, you hear stories of people getting on wait lists for years. And, we were prepared for that. We actually got a puppy to fill the time, and a wild puppy. It was a husky, which if you know anything about huskies, they're nutty dogs. You got to train them and spend time with them. We're like, all right, well, we'll train this dog. We'll have a nice family dog when we finally start our family. And within like 6 months or 9 months or something like that, we get a call from an agency in Memphis. And they said, they don't actually match on paper, there's a couple of things that don't line up with what you wrote down, but we thought we would show you anyway, just because, and it ended up being, trivial things that we weren't all that hung up on. So we said, yeah, let's start the process and see what happens. And that's our first daughter, Amelia, and she was born in March of 17. I've got my reminder necklace here for my 4 children and their birthdays.
Oh, that's rad.
So yeah, 3/15/17 is her birthday, and went to Memphis and brought her home 2 days later, and very whirlwind, because he didn't have the 9 months of pregnancy to nest and all that stuff, and all of a sudden we were bringing a baby home, and it was pretty life changing, and it definitely opened my eyes to a whole lot of things, not just parenthood and fatherhood, but just other social issues and stuff that we've now become exposed to and become aware of, because now we have a blended family. And
What's that like? Because I don't.
It's about the coolest thing, honestly. I mean, before it was kind of a hang up for me. Like, well, what's that gonna be like? I mean, I don't have any experience with anything outside of my little world, really, and I was pretty nervous about it. But we've made friends, and social media has been great. My wife she developed a huge following on Instagram, because she kind of documented the whole process, and a lot of people from around the world actually would chime in and give us tips and tricks and things to be careful of and things to watch out for and resources and just things to make us more educated parents of a mixed race family. And it's really been great. I think it's gone a long ways to making us have more empathy than we would have otherwise, which I've always thought that I was somebody that was open-minded and had empathy and cared about everybody, and I think in my way at the time I did, but now it's like, well, it's different. Now I can kind of walk that walk a little bit and see for real what is going to affect my daughter when she gets out. My daughters, actually, when they get out into the real world and they're not in the protective little environment of our house, and it's my responsibility as a parent to maybe get involved in things that wouldn't be my interest or my wheelhouse necessarily for their benefit. And even where we live, is important. It's important that they're in a place that they see reflections of themselves and they feel comfortable and included, and won't feel alienated when they go out in the world. So it's cool, but it's definitely something that you have to think about and be aware of. And
Are they old enough to have conversations about this?
our oldest daughter is starting to, and both of our adoptions are open. Like, we don't believe in closed adoption unless it's like a dangerous situation.
What's the difference?
Open means we have contact. They're very open adoptions, which means we have regular contact with the birth families, birth parents. We text and we send pictures and we talk on the phone, and we'll FaceTime with the birth families whenever they're available. And it's different with the two. My second daughter, it's a little more open than the first daughter, but that's not on our end a desire thing. It just seems to be a effort or timing thing with the two different families. Our younger daughter, we have actually a group text that is active almost every day with like her entire, birth mom and birth aunts and grandparents. Actually, we talk to them all the time.
So what, if any of this is uncomfortable,
No.
I'm just super curious.
No, we are totally open books on this.
So you have this open communication with the birth families, and it sounds like one of them, you said grandkids or grandparents and everything.
Yeah.
What was their reason for putting these children into the adoption cycle?
I don't know how much personal stuff they would feel comfortable
Gotcha.
sharing, but just unplanned
Sure.
pregnancies. One was a college age, girl that, pretty much the familiar story that you always hear, and then the other ones were actually older, our age actually, that already have existing children and they're still together, but still an unplanned and not a situation that they were prepared for.
Gotcha.
So the actual stories really aren't too much different than I think you'd assume in that situation. It's just that the ages and the specific circumstances are a little different, but they're all great people. Amelia has biological siblings that she's aware of. She doesn't know them, but she knows that she has a full biological family, and she actually wants to meet them. She's met and has talked to the biological mom and dad, but not the brothers and sisters that she's got. And so that's something we're kind of navigating a little bit, because I don't think that they know about her, and she knows that. So she's old enough now, I guess, to get back to your question, how does that work and how does it affect the kids? She is old enough now to understand a little bit of the complexities of it, and is asking questions, and that was something we knew would be coming. And with Olive, our younger daughter, it's going to probably come too. It's just that because we have so much more regular contact with her family, I don't think it'll be quite as jarring. With Amelia, it's a little bit more sporadic. So Amelia's a very, very smart girl. She's my academic kid. Her and my biggest twin, my oldest twin boy, are kind of the same. They're both very question asking and book smart, curious, want to figure things out, and can see the world through old eyes, even though they're babies. And she's aware, and she's starting to ask those questions. And so it's fun and interesting, but it's also a little bit sad and a little bit difficult sometimes, because she is really smart and understands that Olive has really good, close connections with her side of things, and Amelia kind of doesn't, and it's a little bit tough.
Are there any concerns about like medical histories and stuff like that, or is that pretty open in your case?
That is actually there's a lot of benefits to open adoption, but that's one of them. You don't have to have a social relationship with birth families, and that's still something that's a huge reason to want an open adoption, just for the pure fact that she's developed what appears to be an allergy or something, or a rash, whatever, something. Do you have any history of that in the family? And that's a huge reason for open adoption, is to ask those questions. And we, luckily, so far don't have any medical concerns, but we know that we can go ask if we need to.
Yeah, I bring that up because I had a friend of mine who adopted, and their daughter has gone through all kinds of medical problems, heart stuff, and and there's no information. They don't know if there's family history or anything like that. So it's been a struggle for them because it's not open.
Yeah. With Olive, it can be a touch trickier because she is Chinese, and her birth mother actually was born in China and is also adopted. And
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so there's 2 layers of 2 generations of it. And she doesn't know her birth parents. She was adopted out of an orphanage, I think, when she was 3. And so that's kind of where the family history kind of stops with her. And so luckily there's nothing other than Olive is very curious and very adventurous, and jump first, ask questions later, and will injure herself. She doesn't have any medical stuff that we've really had to worry about yet. So, and her birth mom doesn't seem to have anything either that we're aware of. So, fingers crossed. But with Amelia, she's got a pretty deep-rooted biological history in the Memphis area that is really kind of cool to see, actually. It's cool to be a part of and to just be kind of included in it.
Right.
So, open adoption has to go both ways. I mean, we could want it as much as we want it.
Right.
But if they don't have an interest in it, then it's going to be disappointing and difficult. And it's the same thing, if the birth families decide they really want to have it, but we didn't. One, that's borderline abusive for the children. That's just not a good idea. Unless, like I said, it's dangerous. You should not cut off kids from their biological families at all. Because, clearly our kids are adopted. You look at them, it's not like, oh, surprise, you're 18 and finding out, right? So, So it doesn't do any good to keep it. And I will fight anybody, who, not physically fight, but I'll have this argument with anybody. Like, you should not go into adoption if you're like, I'm going to close my kid off from the biological family. If you're feeling threatened by it, anything like that, you're not going into adoption for the right reasons. And you really need to take a look at your priorities, if you're going to get into that world and go into it with a closed mind. If it's dangerous and violent, I do understand, but anything else, you owe it to the kids to have them have those connections.
It makes sense.
They need them too. Like, there's the health stuff, but psychologically, as they get older, they need that connection. You're their parents. Like, they're born in a hospital, we brought them home, they've been with us since they were children, like since they're babies. We are their parents. They're not going to go replace us with biological parents, which is, I think, what some people worry about with open adoption. Well, I'm going to be tugging back and forth. No, they're your kids, but they still have this unique world that they're a part of that they really need for their own development and psychological, sanity or whatever you want to call it, to have that connection. And you can see the effects of kids that don't have that connection. It's really sad.
So you've got two biological children now.
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden you could have kids.
Well, we'd heard it could happen, and we kind of expected it after Amelia that the dam would burst or whatever. And, 'cause I had friends in Tennessee that the same thing. They adopted kids, and boom, we got a biological. It's a pretty common story in the adoption world. And we're like, all right, well, here it comes. We don't actually have any medical diagnosis for what's causing it. It's just not there, and maybe it's stress. Who knows? And it didn't happen, which is fine. We weren't like really searching for it anymore. It just wasn't happening, and we moved here, and Olive got kind of placed on our radar while we were living in Ludington, actually. So I was technically homeless, borrowing a condo from a relative in Ludington when Olive kind of got put on our radar. And baby number 2 came in January of 19, and 4 months later, my wife discovers she's pregnant, and was like, holy shit. And then we go to the OB down here at Munson, and the way our minds work is like, it's going to be twins. I mean, this is just the way stuff kind of falls.
Yeah.
I mean, look, you adopt 2 kids and you're pregnant, so of course it's going to be twins. So when the OB puts it up on the screen, the sonogram, and you can clearly see actually 3 on the screen, and it wasn't like a holy shit moment. It was like well, of course, I knew it, and we felt it. She actually says that she could feel. She'd never been pregnant before, so she didn't have anything to compare it to, I guess, but she just knew that something was different about it, and there they were, and there was a mysterious little third one on there that apparently got eaten by one of the other twins, but because he never appeared. But for a minute, there was 3 of them.
Wow.
That was the holy shit moment. But then there was 2, and they're identical, which is pretty cool, too. Mm-hmm. So it got us thinking, actually, because like years and years ago, when we first got married, and we weren't even like dealing with any of the infertility stuff. We weren't even ready to have kids yet. It was just like a what if down the road story. We're like, it'd be cool to have twins. Of course, you can't control it really, but it'd be cool to have twins. And then never happened, and we ended up going the other route. And then sitting in actually it was Walmart in Ludington. We were going to Timbers just to go out to dinner one night, and she's like, I need to go get a test. So we go to Walmart, just like those crappy stories of people doing this type of thing, and go to Walmart, get a pregnancy test, and in Walmart she takes the test, and we're sitting on the bench like in the front of Walmart, and we're like, oh my god. And that's where she finds out she's pregnant. And then it was a month or whatever later, when whenever the timing is right, she goes and gets the sonogram, and oh my god, there's 2 of them and they're identical.
What a great story, dude.
It is so weird. There's a lot of weird stuff like that that's just happened to us, like cool stories and also like stressful stories.
Yeah, full-on dad mode with very young kids is it's wonderful, and it's stressful at the same time.
I really enjoy going out to eat, and this is like dark humor, and I feel bad about it afterwards, but going out and we'll like tell people about our family, and we're like, yeah, we got 3 kids that are all within about 10 months of each other. Let's see, no, 1 year exactly. That's the other thing. My daughter Olive's birthday, the boy's due date was on her birthday, so they're like literally a year apart. And telling people this when I go out to eat or whatever, just talking to people and watching them like do the math.
Yeah, wait, what?
How is that possible? And we don't tell them that our daughters are adopted right away, and it's kind of a fun little mean game we play. But yeah, this was all within a year of living here, buying our house, and just all this, getting a new job up in here, and then COVID starts like right after. I mean, there's been no downtime whatsoever. This was actually supposed to be our first kind of calm down year in the last year or so, and then the house thing happened that I told you about. So we lived in a rental on the north side for a year until we moved back in here on Labor Day. This Labor Day we moved back in.
It seems like you're constantly fixing or adding or doing something to that house.
We're project people. I mean, we had a cookie cutter house in Nashville that kind of cut our teeth on, and it wasn't all that stressful because it was just a modern, mid-90s house. And we're like, this is great. Let's go buy a 100-year-old house. And this one fell into our laps up here. We got a really good right place, right time situation. And of course, at the time we had our one daughter. With the other 2 hadn't come yet. The other 3 hadn't come yet. And everybody's thinking we're crazy for buying this big old, house in Manistee, but now it's pretty full. And we enjoy working on it, and we were just kind of picking at it, just updating things here and there, finishing the basement and stuff. And this flood situation took about 10 years of possible down the road projects that we may or may not get to, like major upgrades, and packed them all into the last year. And the house is actually really cool, not because of it, but the stress and the pressure and the aging that has happened, I think, in the last year and a half is kind of shocking. I've got a lot more gray hair.
Oh, dude.
than I did a year ago.
Yeah, it comes. Mid-40s. There's like two. I just read a thing the other day. There's 2 age increases in your life, and it starts at, I think 44 is the first big one, where all of a sudden, did you see that?
I saw that.
And then 60 is the other one, and I'm like, oh,
you're-
that's interesting because I feel that.
I'm a year and a half away from that first one, so what's going to happen? My dad actually is always very young looking and never, he started getting gray in his 40s, but he's just never really like aged, and so he's in his 60s now, and he's still doing pretty good, but it's coming for all of us. So and I think I'm a little thin on top too, which I found out accidentally one day a couple years ago, which really freaks me out.
Yeah,
It's
hair.
not anything you want to discover by yourself.
No. So how many siblings do you have in your wife? And I ask that because I'm curious to how your parenting is similar or different than your growing up. Well, the way your parents raised you.
I have one younger sister. She's 5 years younger than me, and she's married and has 2 daughters, and they live down in Holly, which is kind of a suburb of Flint. It's a little south of Flint. And my wife has one younger brother who's 2 years younger than her. We both had pretty normal childhoods. I mean, my family vacationed and camped and had dinner together every night. Just nothing exciting, nothing crazy. No real strange childhood stories that I can remember, at least. And she was the same way. Her dad has a big, huge family. They're from Iron Mountain. He's got 5 brothers and sisters, and they're UP people. And my mother-in-law she's one of 4, so they also had a big family. My mom actually is one of 4, and my dad was one of 3. So we all have kind of good-sized families, and I don't know. There's really nothing too exciting that I can think of other than just normal family upbringing and a lot of camping, a lot of we would go on vacation once a year with my grandparents, and that's another kind of way we discovered, my cousin and I, just kind of a love of Michigan, northern Michigan, as my grandpa was very Michigan, and he would take us up to the Sioux and Marquette and just all those cool places. So I don't know. I think like parenting styles have changed, priorities have changed since they grew up. I mean, my parents did not stick anything away for college or whatever, because the advice at the time when college was like, $1,000 for an entire degree was, they'll figure it out, it's fine. And then, when I was getting into college, it was not as expensive as it is now, but it was getting to that point. And between, grants and scholarships and loans and stuff, I didn't have to deal with it too much with my sister. She's feeling the effects of, modern college expenses and loans. And
Dude, that shit is wild. When I took my son to Ferris for the day that he was moving in, and we were trying to figure out like his food plan and all this shit, and I can remember I said, we got to go to the financial aid office and find out what's going on, because he didn't take out any loans, but he was trying to pay for his cafeteria food thing, and we go to the financial aid office, and there's a kid there. And this is my age coming up. I feel like a boomer sometimes. But this kid, he's obviously just working there, getting paid whatever he's getting paid. And we're like, all right, so what's up with the food? We need to pay for this or whatever. And the first thing he says, he pulls up my son's information, and he's like, oh, you got loans here if you want them. I mean, with just a click away, you can have a few thousand.
office.
And I go, no, he's not taking out loans. He doesn't need to. But it's almost predatory, and that kid has no idea.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? He's just like, everybody does this. Why aren't you? And this was right after the whole forgiveness of some of the loan stuff, and I was getting more and more pissed off about it, because it's like, I, I have a ton of gratitude, and we're blessed that that our kids don't have to like take on all this debt. It's not like he's going to like a big university or something like that, like Michigan or something. But regardless, I sat through all the financial stuff at like his open house thing, and I'm like, this is crazy how much this costs. I'm looking at the numbers. They're transparent. They're right there. This is how much a year costs at Ferris State University. And I'm like, how the fuck do kids pay for this today? You can't even rent an apartment for less than $1,000 a month now.
Well, no, and you're in a world now where it was, I mean, as far back as I can remember, I mean, way back in Nashville when I was first starting my teaching career, it was sort of a catchphrase, like, my parents did really well. They didn't go to college. They left high school and they got good paying jobs and worked their way up and had good investments and now have a pretty comfortable, well, they did have a pretty comfortable retirement until about a week ago. And that was the world they lived in. And then now to get what they got, or the equivalent of that, you've got to have like some tech school or college or something beyond high school. I mean, I realize not everybody is going to have that same story, but just in general, like we're in a world that you have to do something beyond high school to, have a chance of having a better living and all that. And now it's like the high school equivalent is now a 4-year degree, and what was a 4-year degree equivalent is now a master's degree. So it's like they've upped all these basically on paper expectations, but you also can't afford to do that because of the way college prices have become. And so you have to, the predatory loans, you have to take these loans out to have a chance of having some kind of success in the future. And it's it's scary. My sister had between her and her husband, tens of thousands of dollars of college loans coming out of college and just entering into their fields. And what are you supposed to do with that? And they're going to give these loans to kids who probably wouldn't qualify for a car loan on their own.
No, there's a story there. Not that long ago, I was working for a local car dealership here, and a gal came in, and this car was definitely her first car, right? Mm-hmm. But it was well used before she purchased it, and this was her daily driver. Mm-hmm. Now, she is a doctor. She pulled in, not fresh out of college, but like she's a working doctor now, and she landed on a new-ish vehicle, right? Got to finance it. Go to the and it's like, well, you can't afford this. You have like $500,000 in student loan. It wasn't that much, but it was like $200,000 and some thousand that she was making payments on. She's like, I know, I just need a vehicle, but like, this is like hanging on her. Mm-hmm. And she's a doctor.
Oh yeah.
That's wild to me. And that was literally her debt. That was it.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, I had a little bit of loans coming out of college. Nothing like that. I mean, and it was enough that with different COVID payments and whatever, we were able to kind of shuffle a little bit that way and pay it off early. But the amount of money that people have, it's not a realistic amount of money, and it's just never going to be paid off. And there's stories about I've been making payments for 10 years, and because of interest rates and all that, I somehow owe more than I started with, and it's very scary. I think, and I don't have any control over it, obviously. I'm just a high school and adjunct college history teacher with no control over anything, but it's become something that I can use in the classes, because I teach mostly 9th grade, right? So kids are just coming up into high school and just starting to figure out.
And what do you teach?
History. U.S. history at the school here.
Nice.
And in Grand Rapids, it's the same. It's actually the same class in Grand Rapids. It's just the first-year college version of it. So I can actually tell with authority you're going to learn the same stuff when you go to, which is kind of the basics of the story. You're going to have, if you're going to go to college, not everybody does, but if you're planning to go to college, you need to figure out how to make it affordable for yourself. And I know we live in Michigan, and like I want to go to U of M, I want to go to State, I want to go, here, wherever, I want to go to Harvard. But your first 2 years of school, of college, you're going to learn the same stuff that you're going to learn at West Shore, that you're going to learn at Mott Community College is actually where I started school in Flint. Community school that was actually free because I got whatever the grant was called at the time that I think they still offer now. I don't even remember what it's called. you need to cut your expenses. And it makes no sense to go to U of M and pay tens of thousands of dollars to take the U.S. history class that I'm teaching kids at Cornerstone University in Grand Rapids, and that you're going to learn over here at Mott Community College. Save your money and then transfer to the big school. It's not exciting your first year to a school, but
Right.
when you're out of school and you don't have loans for those 2 years when you might have otherwise, you're going to be happy about that later, and you'll be in a better position to think what I want to major in and where I want to go and what school actually fits my vision for my future and all that. And then you got to go pay the bills and do the serious classes. But for the first 2 years, I mean, with the environment we're in and the money that it costs, why would you pay this much more to go take basic history and basic math?
100%. I mean, that's such a blessing that we have community colleges like West Shore in our community. Mm-hmm. For the cost standpoint, but you're absolutely right. I mean, take those 2 years to figure it out too.
Oh yeah.
Because everybody leaves high school with, this is what I'm going to be the rest of my life, and then, that shit changes.
It was a big deal in Tennessee. Tennessee, it's like UT and Vanderbilt. It's like It's like the North and the South. Like you're either one or the other, and they hate each other. And my family bleeds orange through and through. We're going to UT, and I'm going to go to UT and flunk out of my first year of classes because I don't know how to do college yet. Okay, but you could also do that at this community school that's like walking distance from your house.
Yeah.
That you can get and it's a mentality that I get it, because I went to U of M. I mean, it's cool. I like having my diploma on the wall. It says U of M, and I get it. And I wear my sweatshirts and stuff. But I'm also a guy that didn't have as many student loans as other people did because I didn't do that for the first year and a half of college. And now I'm really happy about that. I still got my diploma that says U of M on it, but I have a whole lot less money that I have to pay them. So.
Yeah, I wish there was, this is coming from a non-educator when I talk about school, but I wish that there was a class or something offered, throughout the year where these kids are taught financial responsibility and how to save, I bring up shit like balancing a checkbook. Most people don't carry around a checkbook anymore, but I mean, knowing what's in your bank account, knowing what bills you got going out, setting a budget. If they don't know, it's I know you're not supposed to be like ignorant of the law when you get pulled over, but I mean, if you're ignorant to keeping your finances in check, I mean.
I will say, as an educator, we're kind of dealing with state laws and standards and requirements and all that right now. There's a recent change to Michigan's requirements that personal finance is now a required class for graduation. It's like half credit or something. And I don't know if it's taught in math or economics class or whatever, but I think that's hopefully an attempt to kind of fix that, because that's a super common complaint that's been since I was in school. There just aren't finance classes that are required, and now the state requires it. So I guess it's up to us to do a good job teaching it, but it is something that they're hopefully going to focus on. And at our school here, we have a couple of pretty good economics teachers that actually take it pretty seriously and sort of talk about it anyway. So I would think that kids coming out of Manistee, at least in the near future, hopefully it'll be set up a little better with that.
There's a thing that Filer Credit Union does, and actually I'm going to it on the 15th at West Shore. They're bringing in kids from Manistee, Onekama, there's another school, maybe Bear Lake, to the college, and it's kind of like a financial education seminar they're doing, and then they're also going to bring in car salesmen to sell them cars. They're going to give them all right, this is what you want to go to school for, so this is the average annual income, and then generate like a fake credit score. Mm-hmm. And then go out and buy stuff and then figure it out if you can afford it, stuff like that. I mean, that's at a smaller scale in terms of like education, but at least it's something. Yeah.
Well, that's the kind of activities that makes it real. And I've actually seen in our economics class when I was just walking around one day that he was doing something like that in there too. So I'm optimistic that hopefully this financial ignorance thing that does seem to be kind of prevalent with kids we're at least trying to do something about it going forward. I hope. I didn't have it in school, and honestly, I mean, my mom worked at a bank, and she was the deputy treasurer for Grand Lake Township for her whole life, so like her whole world was like budgets and money. I didn't know shit about budgeting when I became an adult, and it took an app that's connected to my bank account that
Yeah.
auto fills all that all that stuff for me to kind of be aware of it and take it into account and make the budgets. And
Well, what I see kids doing now, if they don't have bills that are like automatically drawn or whatever, even if they do, like I've watched my son do this, and I would see it all the time at the liquor store. That how much is it? Okay, and then they transfer money from a savings to a checking, to and then Apple Pay it. So like they see how much they have, it's all there in their face. But I'm like,
I've had to resort back to a version of that with all this insurance stuff we've been doing. Because I mean, when I say our house was destroyed, but I mean destroyed. Every single thing we own, the entire house was all in dumpsters in the yard. Like
that's wild, dude.
Yeah, I mean it was a nightmare. I mean it was like the wet version of a house fire. I mean it was.
Where was the water coming from?
Third floor bathroom supply line.
Yeah, so the whole house.
And our house.
Wow.
And actually, I don't know if anybody around's familiar with our house, but it's kind of like crooked on the cliff over there. That was actually it's really annoying inside the house, but at this point, it was kind of a saving grace because all the water flowed out the back of the house down the hill instead of just pooling in the house. But it took everything down with it.
Amazing.
Yeah, so it's been a lot. Everything got thrown out, so we've had to rebuy everything, and so the checks from the insurance company were pretty large to compensate for all this, and I've had to do the whole transferring to pay the credit card bill thing. I feel like I'm a kid again because we don't do that in our normal budgets.
Yeah.
But I don't just keep $80,000 in my checking account either for stuff. So I got a credit card bill of $10,000 or $15,000. I gotta pay that off real quick. So let's dump some money over real fast before I forget, or pay the bill but don't transfer the money
Right.
and have the overdrafts. And it's been a little bit of a hoops to jump through in a mind game. Actually, I have one to pay right now that I'm just now remembering. So to write that down.
So when did you start teaching? How long ago?
2009 in Hendersonville, Tennessee, or suburb of Nashville.
How has it evolved? Education evolved in school since then to now? Is anything really different than like maybe when you were younger going through school?
Yeah.
Is that how teaching is today?
Yeah, it's definitely different. I mean, it's a lot more interactive. I mean, you always had labs and hands-on stuff in like art class and science and stuff, but even in social studies and history, it's a lot less lecturing, a lot less direct instruction, just talking to the kids for an hour and expecting them to learn. It's a lot more interactive and hands-on and group work and just me actually stepping back and facilitating more so than directly, lecturing and teaching, which even when I started was a bit of a shock because that's what college was to me. My favorite college professor, my advisor, the guy that I had a pretty good personal relationship with, and I actually went to his retirement party when I lived in Nashville. I mean, we were pretty close. That's all he did. And so that's what I thought teaching was. You lecture and you tell stories, and the kids just get it because you grip them. And it turns out that's not how it works. So a lot more of that. A lot more collaboration, really, with your coworkers. You're not just an island. I'm not just the history teacher. I'm the ninth grade history teacher, and I've got a ninth grade math teacher and a ninth grade science and English teacher that we all have the same kids, and we all know different things about the kids. Like, this kid does really well over here, but not here, so we all need to work together to, be the best we can be for that one kid. And also, because we're a small district, I also teach the older kids, so I'm also part of like the the 12th grade, 11th grade groups, and just less of being an island and more of being all of our kids versus it being my kids, which is it's a pretty cool development, I think. And that hasn't always been the case. You're friends with your coworkers. I mean, and you chat and you get help when you need it, but to actually have it be a regular part of the day where we do this on the Monday mornings, actually, that late start thing. It's like it's all just meetings with your departments and talking about how to handle this situation with this content so that all the kids get it, and what groups of kids need additional help, and just it's a lot more collaborative, and it's really, it took some adjusting because it's not the way it's always been, but it's pretty cool. Social awareness is important. You know, not every kid's the same. Not every kid's going to college. Not every kid knows where dinner's coming from, and that might be, you know, why they're sleeping in class and why they're not doing very well is because this is their safe place to be. But learning history today is not necessarily the priority, and being aware of that, I don't remember that being a huge thing when I was a student. You know, so a lot more of that, and maybe it's because it's more of a need now than it used to be, or maybe it's more on our faces now than it used to be. I'm not really sure. I'm not a psychologist or a sociologist, so I don't know all the differences. I just know that it seems to be much more prevalent and something we really have to be more focused on. Mental health is a huge thing. Much more aware of mental health and what kids are going through, not so much of just are they learning my subject today, and it's really important. You know, it really plays a huge role, and it probably is more important now because it's more of an issue now. There's always been people dealing with things, but it really seems like there's a whole lot of sadness and stress and depression.
Where do you think that comes from?
I don't know. I mean, the easy answer is...
Because you're right. I didn't see any of that shit really when I was going through school when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
What I did see was a lot of abuse. You know, I laugh about it now, but, you know, I remember teachers duct taping kids to chairs, putting duct tape on their face and putting a hole in it so they can breathe. I remember a bus driver dragging a friend of mine from the back of the bus because he was being a shit to the back, grabbing him by the hair and dragging him up front. I mean, I could go on and on and on. And it's like, you definitely don't see that shit today, which is good.
Yeah, no, there's...
But, you know, an undiagnosed ADHD, like, wild kid back in my day was taken care of with duct tape and...
I mean, I got 4 kids, and I can't say I'm going to totally... It's never crossed my mind that I want to tape them to the wall or something, but so far I'm not. Yeah, I don't know. I mean... I think gentle hands is something that is probably people are more aware of the benefit of that, because you can't yell at a kid. You know, anybody that has kids knows that yelling at them doesn't teach them anything. You might scare them for a minute and shut them up for 30 seconds, but they're not learning anything. But if you can be gentle with them and you can help them understand the situation and maybe what got them to this point and help them work through what they're feeling or whatever, then you have a little bit of a deeper growth experience there, and helps them actually cope with things in the future. But why there seems to be more of it now, I don't know. The easy answer is, well, they don't have enough money and so they're stressed, or there's drugs in the home, or whatever. You know, the stereotypical stuff that you just assume comes from like low income type situations, you know, which there is a correlation there too, but it happened in Nashville too, and I taught in...
Yeah, I don't think it's just a here thing. It's everywhere.
And I taught in a shockingly affluent district in Tennessee, and I kind of was aware of it at the time, but I didn't know really until I moved away from it, and I got the experiences other places. And these kids that were super comfortable, and we're talking like country star kids, and you know, people with recognizable parents that you probably know, they had the same problems. And it's not because they don't have money; it's because they don't, I think, feel the support. Their parents would be out on the road, you know, doing whatever they do on the road and gone for weeks at a time, and they just don't have that connection. And so that, you know, kids need to be seen and understood and heard. You know, my 4-year-olds needed this, my 5-year-olds now need this like more than ever. My 8-year-old, as she's becoming aware of the complexities of her relationship with biological families and us, and our younger daughter who isn't quite there yet but has her own needs for attention. Like the common thread is really attention. Like they want to be heard and they want to be seen, and force feeding academic content down a kid or taping them to a wall or whatever it's good for a minute because it gets you a quiet minute perhaps, but that's just not what they need. And I think a lot of kids today just aren't given that. They're not given it at school because they're in, you know, a class of 80 or 90 kids, and maybe they're not the one that sticks out the most, so they kind of just fade back, and they don't get the attention at school that they need at home, whether it's because they got a huge family, or maybe it's because there's not enough money and the parents are stressed about making ends meet and finding food, or maybe the parents aren't there, whatever the source of it is, the main common denominator seems to be they just need to be seen. And I think that's kind of newer. Again, I'm not a psychologist or
Sure.
I've not studied the history of this, but it seems to be that, at least me personally, I'm much more aware of the need of kids just need to be seen. I've got some kids that are never going to be 4.0 valedictorian kids, but they thrive when you are aware of them and you take an interest in what's going on in their life. And it's amazing, like the differences that just that will, bring to a kid. I'm not going to lie to myself and tell myself that all these kids are going to walk out of my room remembering every single fact about tariffs and whatever else that I teach them, although that is kind of interesting right now.
Yeah.
So they may actually remember that, but they're not going to go out and become historians because of my class, but they are going to remember if you were the one that was nice to them one day, or you were aware that they're having a bad day or a bad season or something, and you've decided to spend a few minutes with them and talk to them, which not everybody does. Not because we won't care or mean to, it's just you get in the flow of the day, and there's 150 kids coming in and out of your room, and at my house there's 4 kids all screaming for attention, and sometimes you just miss stuff. So they remember it when you're the one that doesn't miss it.
Mm-hmm. They definitely remember it. I mean, I've got teachers that I'll never forget, counselors I'll never forget that, were mentors for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Even at the time when you didn't know they were.
Mm-hmm.
They were. So that's a great way to look at it. The kids need to be seen. And,
that's my wife's grandpa, actually. Ray Mariucci in Iron Mountain. He was a teacher in, I want to say Lansing, East Lansing. He was a high school teacher. He was a boxing coach, and when he was put in the Upper Michigan Sports Hall of Fame or something. I can't remember what it's called, but like their whole family's a sports family, and they're all in this Hall of Fame. And when he was entered into it, this was years and years ago, all of the people that came, he had a bunch of former students come to this thing. I mean, he's like an 80-something-year-old man at this point. All of his, not all of them, but a bunch of his former students from decades ago came to this induction ceremony, and all of the ones that gave speeches, that's all they talked about. He taught us, I think he was actually a history teacher if I remember correctly. They didn't talk about that. They talked about he instilled in them this value, or he helped them at this time when they needed it, or the boxing program that they were in that he was coaching, that was the thing that saved them during this whatever thing they were dealing with. It's never, I learned the hell out of some history from this guy.
Yeah.
This guy got me through, whatever it was I was dealing with. And that's what I've always wanted to be. I fail at it quite often. I mean, there's kids that hate my guts, and probably rightfully so, because I don't give them what they need all the time. But then there's some that I don't have that experience with. I still talk to a lot of kids from Nashville, and they're having their own kids now. I actually went to a wedding of a student of mine in Nashville that I had 13 years ago, and they invited us to their wedding just because you know when you've made those connections. It doesn't happen a whole lot with every kid, but when it does.
I mean, how many kids do you teach? So,
just this year, it's 100 and, I don't know, 20, 130, and it's a small school.
Still, it's a lot of kids, dude. And then, like, trying to, map that and allow the kids to be seen, as you say, that's got to be pretty hard with all those kids.
Yeah, it's stressful. I mean, it's stressful. I don't, like, go home every night thinking, oh, crap, what did I do? But when you're there, it's definitely a concern because, the rigors of teaching all day and having all these kids and all their various needs, you miss stuff, it's stressful because you still got to teach the content, you got to get the kids, help them get the good grades and help them with this issue and that issue, and like everybody's got their own needs, and it can be stressful. And then just, obviously discipline stuff and kids that need a little extra direction and help, or sometimes take your whole attention for the day, and you just got to start over the next day and also not take it home.
Yeah, don't take it home. Do you think that when you decided you wanted to be in education, that part of your job, whether you think that it is or not, was going to be social worker, psychologist? I feel like sometimes I got some other friends that are teachers, and it's like, man, I feel like there's more than teaching going on. Like there's a lot of extra, lack of a better term, stuff that you have to navigate.
I haven't been in an education class since like '07, so I don't know exactly what they're teaching in, the education department now, but I don't recall any of that, being an actual like class, which is why field work when you're going into teaching is so important. When you go student teach somewhere,
Right.
and you see, and even that's kind of a filtered experience a little bit, but at least you're there and you see this stuff. That was my first like, oh wow, like there's more to this moment. I actually had to, my I'm still bitter about this 20 something years later, but my cooperating teacher whose room I was in, he had some health issues that I'm still not all the way sure were not made up, and he was gone a lot. So I was like in the room myself. I did parent teacher conferences myself without him there, and I was like thrown to the wolves, and it was stressful, and that's when you really see what it's really like. Because in the classroom, you're seeing how things should be. You're going through pedagogy and methodology and how to navigate. It's actually like retail management classes. A lot. Here's how you deal with a difficult customer and like the approaches and the buzzwords and all that stuff. But the layers of it, like what really makes a kid tick and what they need and all that. It's not a blanket approach that works for all kids. That comes from being there.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm in year 16 or 17, and I'm like I just said. I mean, I go home thinking, man, I did not do a good job today. I did not. There's this kid that was waiting to talk to me, and I got caught up with something else, or some other kid came up in the hallway and grabbed my attention because they were a little louder or something, and I just remember this as I'm sitting on my couch at 4:00, and so it kind of hits you sometimes. It's always a growing exercise. If you ever, this is any job really, if you ever arrive at the point where you're like, I got this and I don't need to learn anything else, I think it's time to switch jobs, and there's always something to learn. There's always new approaches, new research, new science. There's never just one definitive answer for most things. Maybe some things there is.
Yeah.
But not this.
How's technology playing a role? And that's a big question. Let me bring that down. Number one thing I wanted to talk to you about was like Chat GPT, shit like that with kids. And how do you allow some of that as like maybe this can help you give some framework and then put it into your own words, like our teachers would always say growing up, make sure it's in your own words. Do you use it for anything?
I've played with it just because I'm curious,
Mm-hmm.
but I've not like used it. But I can definitely see from a professional standpoint how it is useful. And it's not going away, honestly. So being one of
Right.
those people, it's like I refuse to. Well, you're just making your life harder. You need to figure out how to work it into what you're doing. And I can see how there's benefits to it being used correctly. Like for example, I need to come up with a week unit for World War I or whatever, and I'm straight. I need to refresh this. I don't know what to do. You can actually like ask it to make out a 5-day schedule for you of what, like a framework, and then me as professional can fill in the gaps. So it's good for workflow and using it correctly, but ninth graders don't have that maturity level with
Right.
it yet, and so what we're navigating is like, well, I had kids do a 3-page book report or whatever on this book, and I'm pretty sure that this kid doesn't have this writing level, but because it's Chat GPT and it's just generated out of nowhere, it's not like some New York Times book report that's
Right.
already out there. It's really hard to track it, and there's like AI checkers and stuff, but they're not 100% reliable, and it's so instead of trying to cut all that off, it's going to become a thing now. It's going to be a whole new set of classes probably, but how to use it responsibly to still develop yourself as a student and as a writer and as a mathematician, whatever, and use this to supplement what you're doing to work smarter, not harder, whatever you want to call it. And I don't know what that's going to look like, because it is pretty alarming what it can do for you.
And I wonder with like grading, and I bring that up because I was talking to my daughter the other day, and before spring break, she had to finish up like a 20-page essay on something. It was a research deal. And I said, how is your professor going to grade all of these? Like back in the day, it would have been like, you need to have this turned in well before spring break, because I got to spend all of spring break reading these. Mm-hmm. And I said, I'd be willing to bet if you asked her, she plugs it into like a Chat GPT and says, this is what I'm looking for, grade it.
Mm-hmm.
I would.
I mean, honestly, that's
And then
not
just
something.
take that from Chat GPT or whatever AI you're using and say, okay, so this is what they got right and wrong, and then maybe go through it just to verify to make it faster,
I personally have not done that, but I grade a lot of written assignments. I teach AP, and there's a lot of writing in AP, and it's it's a lot of work, but also I'm a person that might not do it correctly, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so I can see the benefit of having kind of a impartial robot that has the rubric and whatever little requirements I want to add in, go through it with unfiltered eyes. I can see that as a benefit. And then going back through and discussing, because the thing's not going to grade it drastically different
Right.
as far as what I'm going to do as a person. And then I'll see what it says. Again, hypothetically, I've not done this, but this is just me actually thinking about it probably for the first time as I'm sitting here with you. I can see that and I can see what notes it made or whatever, and then have a more educated conversation with the kid about, okay, here's what you need to do, here's what you need to develop. This is probably a little picky, so don't worry about that, but here's what you need to do to improve this, or hey, good job, the robot says you did good, so nice job.
Well, she even told me her math teacher straight up is like, yep, I take all your homework and put it right in it. It grades it for me.
Well, really, I mean, it's just a new version of like a Scantron machine.
Yeah.
I mean, you fill out Scantrons, and like no teacher sat there and graded 400 ABCD questions. They put it in a
Right.
machine, and it took 10 seconds to grade it, and it has a role and it has a place, and it's not going anywhere. So it's just somehow deciding at what point you're getting in the way of your own professionalism or taking the human side out of it completely. Because the other thing is it's coming for our jobs too if we're not careful.
Yeah.
So we need to not rely on it too much and show everybody how disposable we are. But you can never replace a person in a classroom environment or in any job really. Like there has to be a person there to make decisions and to have conversations and to operate the joysticks or whatever. But it definitely can help if used correctly. But it's so easy to get lazy with it that you have to, and even with adults now, because the upcoming professionals and even some that are already in the professional world are kids that grew up in the age of technology, so they're used to it. Like you and me are kind of at that transition point where I didn't have a phone in school because they just didn't really exist, and my dad got one of those first Motorola brick phones when he was a truck driver, and it was like the coolest thing, and it didn't have laptops or anything like that. I think I had one of those Apple II, DOS machines or whatever that you could play like Pitfall or something on.
Yeah,
That
I
was
mean,
my
that's where I
computer.
learned how to, typing class was on that. But.
Yeah, so like we're aware, I think, of the difference in real versus artificial like that, but that's not always going to be the case. It's like people lived through Pearl Harbor and it was real for them, but now I'm just telling you about it. I didn't
Right.
live there, so it's more of a story. And the same thing, this is actually sad. I lived through 9/11. I have actually a family who was there at the time. I've got these personal experiences with it, but kids today were born in 2010, 2011 or whatever, so it's not real for them anymore. And AI is the same thing, like that's just the world they were born into, so they're used to it, and I'm aware of the challenges of it. So we just have to make sure that everybody knows how to use it and how not to. And it's with phones too.
I was just going to bring that up. What do you think about phones at school?
I think they should not be in school.
Get them out.
I mean,
Get them out. I've been saying that for a while. They don't need
I will not
them.
mince words. I will not soften my approach on that. I mean, there is zero reason, and I know that people think, well, there's all sorts of, what if a crisis happens and all that? That's not going to help. It's actually going to draw attention to you if you are having a loud and lit up phone in a crisis situation. They're distracting. There's other ways to communicate with schools. Everybody's got email on their school computers and stuff. You can email with your parents back and forth all day long.
Yeah, you can use the telephone at home and call the school,
There's
dude.
phones in the office.
Yeah.
They just let you pick it up and dial it yourself. I mean, it's insane, like what we have. And I mean, I love my phone's right here, and I'm on it all the time, and I get the benefits of it. I'm not an anti-phone person, but a high school kid and a lot of adults don't have the maturity to know that while this is a useful tool that I would love to be able to let you use in class for school stuff, they don't know the difference. And
Right.
I've tested this. I've actually let kids have their phones for researching and stuff because we didn't have one-to-one technology in Nashville. We weren't quite at that point yet. And so I'd let kids do it with the caveat that, but only for school stuff. And when I put the little red light on or whatever, it's time to put your phones away. And they don't. They swipe over into social media or games or whatever. And it's just because they're kids. It's not because they're bad people or
Right.
whatever. It's because they're just not there yet. And so you just need to take them out and communicate other ways during school. You know, during school, when they're out of school, whatever. I'm not saying kids shouldn't have phones, but in school, there's just not a place for them at all.
I 100% agree.
And
I mean, I
districts
think
are doing it.
there is a, what's that?
Districts are doing it.
Good.
Districts are getting, our district is not, but districts around the state, around the country are starting to make rules, and I really wish that it would happen up here.
I don't understand what the holdup is. I mean, I really think that overwhelmingly parents would be like, yeah, they don't need to take one. I mean, I say that because I'm the kind of parent that's like, you don't need a phone, you know? Our older kids got cell phones when they were juniors in high school, when they started being more active socially and they were out and about. And, you know, you wanted to get a hold of them or find out where they're at. But they never took them to school.
I know one of the big concerns is, well, parent pushback. Parents want to have that connection with their kids, and okay, it's a valid point, but this is just my experience, but I have not talked to anybody about this issue and gotten any kind of pushback like that.
Yeah.
Everybody that I've talked to, with the exception of maybe one sort of lukewarm person, was like what you were just saying, 100%. Like, take them out. There's no reason why we'll support that 100%. I actually was just emailing somebody last week about it because I had an issue with their kid in school with their phone. They're like, take it. You know, we'll keep it at home if you want to. We didn't realize it was an issue, but yeah, we 100% support that. And so, psychology supports it. There's research on it. You can see it.
I follow all that stuff too.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
Like if you're a parent that feels the need that you have to text your child while they're at school, there's something wrong. They're at school to do one thing, and that's to learn. And the cell phone shit. Well, I need to get a hold of them. For what do you need to get a hold of them for? They're at school until 3:00.
it's just that instant gratification. I mean, it's a symptom of a bigger problem, I think. You need instant gratification. You don't text me back right away, something must be wrong.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, I'm busy. I'll talk to you later. I don't have time to get into a text conversation. And again, I'm guilty of this. I mean, I got my watch, my phone's buzzing right now. I'm actually like, I need to check this. It's a thing. Like, I get it. But we need to fight against that. And we need to not teach kids when they're in high school that you need to be on your phone right now. Like, call home if you need to. If you're sick, go to the office and call home. Don't have your mom text. This actually is an issue for me. Is kids will say, I'm leaving. Well, nobody called for you. Oh, my mom just texted me she's coming to pick me up. You have to contact the school. You have to get signed out. I mean, there's actually not because we were controlling, because we're sort of legally and
Obligated to make safety.
Make sure you're safe and know where you are right now because you're on our time. Me personally, you're in my class right now. I have to know where you are for your own safety. So there's a process. Call the school, email the school calls down, you're dismissed. And it's, again, not a controlling thing. It's a safety thing. You're a kid, and I sort of want you to not disappear, right? And this goes around that. And it turns into arguments sometimes. Well, my parent texted me. Okay, well, they'll call down when it's time to go. That's the process.
I think it would help a lot of things, especially with the whole social media thing and the games that kids play on these devices, that if you take it away for 8 hours a day, hopefully it's a muscle that is strengthened, that they don't require it as much as it seems like they do now.
It's definitely an addiction. I mean, I've seen what appears to be withdrawals and addiction symptoms with it, and the need to swipe so much. It's in people develop like ADD or ADHD symptoms because of it. And again, not a psychologist, so I don't actually have ADHD, but the need to swipe and move from app to app to app instead of focusing on something for a while. It causes severe problems, and I've had arguments about this with various people in the school, not just this school, but different schools. Just get rid of them. Just do it. I mean, you might feel like you're pulling off a Band-Aid for a minute, but just get rid of it. I promise it won't be that difficult. The kids are going to be mad, but they're kids, they'll get over it. So if there's one thing that would improve everything in the hallways, from bullying to grades to attention to engagement to discipline issues to the mental health stuff, all that. It's phones. It really is. And I realize we don't have control of it outside of school hours, but so much of that happens with kids on their phones in school. Get rid of them.
Get rid of them. What's the procedure to do that? I mean, is it a school board like decision? Does it have to go to the board? Like, hey, you guys should seriously consider.
It's because right now it would be a local decision. So the local body, which would be the school board, probably. I heard something about state level conversation being had about a state law or something, or a suggestion for a state law, which probably won't turn into anything. So it's still a local decision, which is why, like, I don't know, Grand Blanc Community Schools down by Flint has made the decision for Grand Blanc Community Schools, but it doesn't mean that Manistee or Muskegon is doing it too. It's just because Grand Blanc decided we're going to do that, and it's best for our students. And I want to say Grand Haven and some of the Western schools have started to do it too. So it's just making that decision.
Have you like foreshadowed a little bit on how you're going to treat or introduce technology like this to your children?
Well, right now my daughter loves to play this word game on the phone, and she's already used to having it in front of her, and she plays, it's like a Scrabble game, and she's my, nerdy kid, so I sort of let her do it because it's an education game. But it's we've said, my wife and I have said, like, we're not, social media is a straight no. Our kids aren't going to have social media at all. They're probably not going to have phones until, like you were saying, 16 or however old your kids were. That's when they start going out on their own. I mean, it is a world where we got to have them. It sounds like a crusty old guy thing saying no phones, no phones. We're not like that.
Right.
But it's got to have a purpose and a reason, and it's just not for the foreseeable future. The kids just don't need them. And I get every family's different, has different concerns and priorities, but for us, not.
I know, dude.
Also,
And
I
I think about all the shit that I do, and we're that way. Like, no, we don't have a TV at the house, and we don't do technology. I mean, dinner is at the same time every night. This sounds like, like I said, we're pretty blessed. But yeah, dinner. And then after dinner, it's like, what are we going to do if we're not reading? If that makes sense. If my daughter's got energy left, we're going to go outside, we're going to do something, or we're going to play a board game or whatever. We've really got into Catan lately. My son,
Never played that.
You've never played it?
Uh-huh.
Oh my God, dude. For so long, my son bought the game because he was playing it with his buddies, and he's like, you guys would get into this. And I'm like, it seems it's like a map, like you got to get like supplies and like wood and bricks and all this shit. And anyways, I'm like, I don't think so. But then one day we played it, and it was quickly caught on. My 9-year-old loves it, so it takes like 2 hours to do this game.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, I think that when you can bring your kids more into more of it together, because they're going to do what you do.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're like this, that's what they're going to do, because that's what they see.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, it feels better for me to hang out with them.
Oh yeah, and you're right about they're going to do what you're going to do. I keep talking about my oldest daughter. I've got 4 kids, but we bought her Scrabble for her birthday. Like, she plays that word game on the phone, which is basically Scrabble. So we bought her real Scrabble, and she's like so into it. And we bought her a Rubik's Cube for her birthday. Like, she's got all these like nerdy gifts, and she loves them. And that's what she likes to do with my wife and I. Will sit there. Actually, my wife more than me lately. We'll sit and play Scrabble with her. My boys and my other daughter. I've got a gym in my basement, like a wing of the basement that I've turned into a gym, and it's about like 6 days a week. If I'm having a good week, I'll go down there, and they're always right down there with me. And like, I got them a little kid barbell thing that they lift, and like they just want to do it because that's where I'm at. And my older daughter and my younger daughter will go. My wife's got a studio in the Bryony building over here. She's a photographer, and if it's not like a high stress client or something, she'll take my daughter or something to go and kind of help out. They're talking about doing that this summer because they just want to be with you. It goes back to that tension thing that I think I was talking about. This is what they need right now. She wants to go help my wife be a photographer, and the boys want to go lift the weights or play the guitar or whatever it is that I'm doing. I'm in the band at the Tabernacle over here, so I'm always practicing stuff in my basement, and I got some little ukuleles hanging on the wall, and if ever I get the guitar down to practice, can I play the little guitar? Can I play the little guitar? And you just got to do it. I mean, it's annoying sometimes because I got things to do, but
Pretty soon they won't be around to do that.
I know.
You know, somebody told me, I was watching something or somebody told me about how, like, always has to take his son to bed, like carry him to bed, and he's like 9 or 10.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like a kid can go into the bed by himself, but he's always like, Dad, can you take me to bed?
Mm-hmm.
And one night he was like, nah, I'm in the middle of something, just go put yourself to bed, I'll tuck you in a little bit. And his wife was like, you know, he's only going to be 9 for. So then he went and did it, and he's like, yeah, I'll never forget. So like, and I do that shit. Yeah.
I struggle with that. Like the kids are all in the piggyback rides right now.
Yeah, yeah.
And my 8-year-old daughter, like she'll wake up and she'll be like walking on the stairs like this morning, like half asleep. Piggyback? And she's 8, you know, and she's a Scrabble kid. So I'm like, well, she's beyond that, but she still wants it. And I actually hurt myself the other day picking her up. She like squatted down and she hopped on my back and I did something wrong. Both of my quads, I felt like a rip.
Oh, there you go. Welcome to your 40s.
From my knee to my hips. I've been limping from 2 like strained quad muscles from a deep squat or something with my daughter on my back the other day. But they just love it. I had both boys like this walking down the stairs today when we got up at 6 freaking o'clock in the morning because they just want it. And yeah, also they're lighter right now. So going from my 8-year-old to my 5-year-olds, it's kind of nice. But I keep telling myself that I'm very busy. Like I'm always doing something. I have a really hard time just like sitting down or playing really. Like I want to be, I got drywall to do when I leave here and I've got this to do and that to do, you know, and I'm busy and it's really hard to slow down and just play with the trains on the floor with the kids and give them the piggyback rides. And I keep reminding myself what you're saying, that they're not going to be this young forever. And I'm aware of it because my 8-year-old and my 6-year-old daughters are kind of big all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And it's freaking me out. Really sad. You know, we look at the little iPhone memories or whatever.
Doesn't take much to kick one of those up, and you're like, how big did they get already?
All we do is take pictures of the kids anymore, so that's what all those memories are. And
Yeah.
like my daughter, my oldest daughter, was like in the bottom 5 percentile or whatever of size, so she was like this, and the boys, you know, they were premature, obviously as twins, so they were like tiny, like the size of this, and those pictures pop up, and now they're running around, kicking me in the balls and stuff, and it's like, I hate that, but man, I'm really sad. I'm gonna miss it one day. So it's rough, you know. And there won't be any more after the boys. So.
And then you turn into a grandparent someday. Listen, we made it this whole podcast without talking really about tariffs or Trump or anybody. You did a great job. I'll let you get to drywall.
I said tariffs one time, I think.